What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the broader markets. I'm going to talk about what's going on with the economic calendar moving forward, break down some big news that's very important and what you should be watching for as time goes on. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below, or sign up with my QR code that's right over here. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvidia stock. If you deposit $2,000, you're going to get $50 worth of the stock. Deposits $10,000 to get $300 worth, and deposit $50,000 to get $1,000 of free Nvidia. The offer ends very soon, so check out my links down below. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So, as far as NIO is going, I just wanted to mention that NIO got a very, very nice push towards this 6.8 area. We did push a bit higher, only to get a rejection. If we make a lower high, there's going to be a risk of us returning towards our EMAs back down to 5.75 to 5.5 to fill that gap. Then we'll have to see if NIO could bounce after that to start to push higher. So that's what we're seeing, at least so far, a risk of some downside. The overall market started off with a push, only to come back down towards the end of the day. So this could be a sign the market's going to start to decline just temporarily before we see another bounce. That could also be another contributing factor. So as far as the news is going, the market did see some interesting price action. NIO was also in the green in the morning as a result of the ES8 SUV still having more momentum. It's going to cost about $43,000 with the battery subscription plan. However, we started off with the push that was only temporary, and then as time went on, we did end up seeing a bit of a shift. Now, when it comes to other factors, I just want to mention that as far as NIO is going, NIO also had some good news about how NIO Day is going to be coming up in autumn this year. There were lots of times when it was in the late part of the year, around December to January, but now it's going to be earlier in September, so that's likely going to be a lot better. I think the exact date is to be determined, but for now, this is a great piece of news. And then JP Morgan is neutral, at least so far on NIO. The price price ratio is still elevated. Typically, when you get these big pushes, it does come down a little bit before it tries to bounce again. That could be a sign we might come down. Tuesdays tend to be green 55% of the time, and we tend to see more volatility around 1 p.m. and during the second to last hour of the day. Now, tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, August 26th. Keep in mind, this is the last week of August. We have very, very minor housing data in the morning. Then we have data from the Richmond Fed manufacturing numbers. The Richmond Fed manufacturing shipments, new orders, all that data is going to be coming out at 10 a.m. alongside consumer confidence. So we're going to see if that comes down or not. Besides that, that's what we're seeing at least thus far. Besides that, the market is still equally confident that we're going to get a cut. So I don't think that the market subsiding is because of less confidence in the cuts. That's actually not what we're seeing so far. The market still remains very confident, the same as what we saw yesterday and last week. But one of the reasons the market could be dipping is because of some tough resistance and also because of some news that's coming out. Barclays is saying that there's about a 50% chance that we're going to see a recession. Basically, from what we're seeing so far, they are concerned about a recession due to the higher interest rates and also because of our falling GDP. And they're saying that there's a good chance we could be seeing it as soon as like next year. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. And then there's also news from President Trump. He once again met up with the president of South Korea, and they're basically going to secure a 50% tariff on South Korea, which is the same as before. But at the same time, President Trump has also threatened China with an increase in tariffs to about, as high as 200%, depending on particular products. So President Trump once again is threatening higher tariffs, and we're going to see what that leads to as well. And that's what President Trump said right here. If they don't give us magnets, then we have to charge them a 200% tariff or something. But we're not going to have a problem, I don't think, with that. So that's what President Trump said so far. So once again, there's negotiations going on between the U.S. and China. But with President Trump saying things like this, I don't think that was the best for the markets. But it's very, very minor. It's not like causing a massive sell-off or anything like that for now. We only have one full trading day until we get to Nvidia's earnings day. Tomorrow we have some bank earnings. It's quite minor, but then on Wednesday we have Kohl's in the morning, and after market close we have Nvidia. So basically 2 trading days until Nvidia's earnings, which is going to be after close on Wednesday. Greed is making up the majority of sentiment. Momentum is at neutral, and right now there's not really much changing, at least so far for the markets. So for NIO, what I basically see is a risk of us coming down. I think we're going to likely pop upon open and start dipping for either 5.75 to the gap fill at 5.5 in that range. Then we'll see if we get some kind of bounce after that or not, but be prepared for some potential downside. As far as SPY goes, What I'm seeing is that we got this rejection to the lower trend line. We bounced, came back to make a higher low at this trend line, and then we could be dipping to make another touch of this trend line before we try to bounce higher. That's what SPY could be doing, as we're still technically on an uptrend. But it depends on if we could hold 642 or not. If we don't hold this, there's going to be a risk of some downside before we attempt to bounce like this, and I think this is the most likely possibility for SPY. So watch 642. If it fails, we're dipping to 640. But if we break past 645, we're looking for a rebound. This might dip first before it tries to bounce. Same thing can be said about the QQQ. Now, some people may see the head and shoulders, but we can't make promises about these kind of patterns because the market's very tricky. If we break 575, we're bullish. We'll see if we come down to the trend line, then bounce back up like that. We just have to give this the time it needs. For the IWM, we're going to see what happens. We could be coming down just a bit, back down to like 229 to 230. Then we'll see if buyers end up defending or not. And also, we have basically 64.40 is our main support right here. We're going to see if support holds here to bounce or not. If not, we could be dipping a lot lower. On NQ, the same thing is essentially going on. We're making lower highs here. We could be retesting 23,460, 23,300. And then we'll see if we bounce or not, as we once again have this imbalance. So give this the time it needs. Bitcoin's technically on a downtrend. We're going to see if we get back above 113,000 or not. If not, we could be dipping towards 108,000. We'll see if buyers defend. Tesla's looking quite bullish. I think that this is like a white coffee and styled accumulation, which could take us a lot higher for essentially 367 later on. However, before that happens, we might see Tesla sell off a little bit with the stock market because we have a tough resistance right here between 348 and 350. We did touch 350 only to come back down a bit. So we'll see if Tesla cools off before it gets another reaccumulation, then eventually starts running again. Might see a retest of 340 flats, and then we'll see if it bounces. Overall, it's bullish. There might be a temporary dip before it breaks out for the 350s. Nvidia might try to dip and then bounce back up to 182 as we're still range bound. Then we'll see what happens after that. Apple might be retesting 224, and we'll see if we bounce. We also have like a head and shoulders here. So if we lose support at 224, we could be dumping lower. It depends. Can we hold 225 and bounce or not? If not, we could be dipping a lot more. So give this the time it needs. Amazon, sorry, not Amazon. AMD is on a downtrend, making lower highs right here. We're going to see if we get back above 166. If we don't, we could be dipping to 116. And we'll have to see if buyers defend. Coinbase could also be dipping back down towards 300 flats, and we'll see if we bounce. For Amazon, we might be retesting 225 or below, and we'll see if buyers defend. So look for a test of 225. Meta might be retesting essentially 747 to 745, and we'll see if buyers defend. This may also dip a little bit lower. Google could also be dipping to like 206 to 205 in that range, and we'll see if buyers defend. And then Microsoft could also be dipping back down to 502 to 500. We'll have to see if buyers defend. For the VIX, we're technically in the middle, making lower highs. I just want to say that technically it is looking bearish in terms of the overall trend. So if you look at this, what happens is the VIX bounces, rejects, bounces, rejects, bounces, rejects, bounces, rejects. So it is possible we bounce a little bit on the VIX, maybe if the market does see some kind of like drawdown, but it might be followed by more downside for now, and that could be a sign the market kind of like dips and then bounces again, just like what we saw last week, and that could be a good sign for NIO. It depends on a lot of news coming out. I do think NIO could dip a little bit more from 5.75 to 5.5, and we'll see if buyers defend. So that's what I'm basically anticipating for now. With that being said, I thank you all for listening. Be prepared for some downside for the markets for tomorrow, but then we could be bouncing later on towards like Thursday or Friday. So give this some time. We also have to wait to see what happens after Nvidia's earnings, and I wish you all nothing but the best. Thank you for listening, and peace out.